Trending now at 104.5 The Zone.
It is 10:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Predators announced a big move yesterday, trading away forward Victor Arvidsson to the LA Kings for a 2021 second-round pick and a 2022 third-round pick. Arvidsson spent 7 seasons with the Preds and is the all-time single-season leader in goals with 34 in the 2018-19 season. Tennessee football picked up a DB transfer and former Alabama cornerback Brandon Turnage. The former 4-star prospect had initially committed to transfer to Georgia, but has flipped to the Vols. Tennessee Hoops added its first commitment of the 2022 recruiting class in B.J. Edwards, a 4-star guard at a Knox Catholic high school. Edwards is the number 14 point guard in the country, the number 4 player in Tennessee, according to 247 Sports. Milwaukee Bucks took Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, 123-112, over the Atlanta Hawks. Brook Lopez with 33 points as the Bucks were without Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Hawks without Trae Young. Bucks lead the series now 3-2. Game 6 is tomorrow night. Phoenix Suns awaiting the winner in the NBA Finals. Stanley Cup Final continues tonight in Montreal between the Canadiens and Lightning. Lightning lead the series 2-0. Puck drops at 7. And Nashville Soccer Club continues its homestand tomorrow night in Nissan Stadium, hosting the Philadelphia Union at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Rising to the top with A to Z sports quicker than any Titans reporter in town. He's impressed us enough to give him his own show. It's Buck Reising on 104.5 The Zone.
You ready, Mace?
Party people in the place to be. It's about that time for us to.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Good morning, beautiful people. Nashville, Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, wherever it is that you're hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone. We are excited to have you here for the next 3 hours with us. You want to get involved in the proceedings? It's quite simple. 615-737-1045 is how you do so. 615-737-1045. This show's about to be all over the place. I have it feels like a notebook type of day, except it's not a Monday and it's the entire show. But we are going to get into a wide array of topics. Specifically, Mike Golic Jr. is calling the hot dog eating contest on July 4th. He's going to join us coming up next. In the meantime, though, I want to talk about what happened yesterday because we did have a discussion. Hell, I think it took up probably, 2 hours? 2.5 hours of yesterday's show about the name, image, and likeness But for me, I was so blown away by the reaction after I walked out of the studio, Lucas. Good morning, by the way. Hello.
Good morning. Hello.
How we living?
Good. I'm in a good mood. I'm trying to buck this rumor that Nick Cale is perpetuating that I'm constantly miserable and not smiling all the time. I think I am a happy person, but so I'm going to try to make an effort to change that today.
So wait, this is a Nick Cale allegation that you're perpetually miserable? Isn't that my shtick?
No, and it's not totally on Nick. Like Nick Cale texted me one day when I was doing the Memorial Day show with Will, and he said, "Man, you look miserable." Just a look of pure disgust. And there was a screenshot of me on the live stream, and he was absolutely right. Right, like my RBF was in a very serious condition. And then he said, as I was walking in, it's Lucas Panzica walking into the control room, not smiling as usual. Buck Reising making his way into the studio as he was closing out the show just a few minutes ago. So I'm going to try to smile more. Like, I'm a very generally happy person. So, but my RBF it's real.
Why do you have to smile more? Who says you have to smile more?
I'd like to be a person that is considered a happy person.
Well, you can be a happy person and not smile more. You just don't have to be welcoming.
Well,
I'm a happy person. I don't smile at anybody. We're going to talk about RBF.
I don't want to be that guy that's just never smiling with a disgusted. Okay, like I don't have to be just smiling all the time because that can just be weird, just walking around, just smiling at everybody you see. But I don't want to be the guy that just looks disgusted when he's not smiling. I think I fall into that sometimes.
Well, yeah, because then you're going to be like me. You're going to have these wrinkles in your forehead where I am constantly sneering at people, and my girlfriend at 27 years old is asking me if I want to go with her to get Botox. Get rid of the wrinkles in my forehead.
I don't want my brow to be perpetually furrowed for the rest of my life.
Which, by the way, I'm thinking about. Can you imagine what I would look like if I came in one day after getting Botox? I'm really thinking about it. I really am.
Like right there, your forehead?
Yeah, because the forehead wrinkles used to go away, and they don't go away anymore. So I would rather look like Tom Brady than look like an 80-year-old man at the age of 28 in a couple of weeks.
How much Botox do you think Tom Brady's had done?
Oh, well, based on my understanding of how the Botox situation works, you start it preventatively, and then you do about what is considered, they do units, like it's like $11 a unit or something like that. And for somebody like me, apparently it would be about 30 units to remove the scowl, the perpetual scowl from my face. So Tommy at age, what is Brady now, 44, 43? Tommy's probably been doing this for a while because, that's and justifying. And I mean, Tom Brady needs no justification for why he looks younger than me at 44 years old. But I would absolutely say to you that I'm considering the idea of Botox. And I can't wait because now we're on camera for 3 hours. Or now I'm on camera for 3 hours a day outside of the primetime show. So to remove the forehead wrinkles, I'm absolutely going to do that. So but smiling brings wrinkles too. So you don't want to smile. Smiling's for the weak. Put it on a t-shirt.
I disagree.
Okay. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved. 615-737-1045. I want to go over some observations from name, image, and likeness, the aftermath yesterday, and we'll get to Mike Golic Jr. coming up next. But we go to the phones because the phones are already active on this Friday. We go to Corey in the borough who wants to talk about RBF. Hello, Corey. Maybe we don't go to Corey.
Come on, Corey.
Corey, you blew it. It's okay. Try again. 615-737-1045. So do you think the majority of the audience understands what that term is?
RBF? Yeah, I think that's a pretty universal term.
Resting. What is Dawn? So Dawn has Shiano for a word that you can't say. Does Dawn have a what would you call that? A pseudonym? No, that's not right. Does Dawn have a word for the B word that she uses that we can steal from the Dawn Davenport library of curse words?
Not that I know of, but I'm sure she could think of one pretty easily.
Well, she listens regularly because she peppers me with texts that she of opinions that I have that she disagrees with during the show. So I'm sure that my phone will light up with Dawn Davenport's name here shortly. But before we get too distracted already out of the gate, and if you want to get involved, 615-737-1045. The name, image, and likeness aftermath. It was so cool yesterday because we spent the majority of the morning talking about it and what the implications would be, how it would change the sport, what it would do to recruiting, on and on and on it goes. And it was so pure yesterday to see several and many college athletes, tweeting out their endorsement opportunities. You had I can't remember who the kid was that signed a deal with PetSmart, but he's taking a picture with his dog, and everybody just looks so happy because finally they're getting the opportunity to make money off this thing. It was the rare moment where there is a degree of purity. Resting butch face is what we'll call it. Jason Hasty on YouTube coming into the clutch. We'll take it. Or resting twitch face.
No, I like resting butch face because we're just keeping the trend of former Tennessee coaches. Because Greg Schiano was basically Tennessee's coach for a hot minute.
Yeah. Don't tell Vols fans that. They'll riot. But so the rare moment of purity on the internet yesterday, you're seeing all these athletes celebrate name, image, and likeness. You're seeing guys who are in the pros basically say, hey, do we do back pay on name, image, and likeness? I'll take that check too. No question about it. But then I thought that I would gauge the temperature of the larger general public. And you know how I did that yesterday, Lucas? When I need to get the pulse of college football, I have on my phone every day, I get the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast, all right? And everybody who has listened to sports talk radio for long enough, especially in the Southeast, is probably intimately familiar with Paul Feinbaum and with the nature of that show. It's kind of like this show, except the callers, you guys are sensible. The Paul Feinbaum Show callers are insane. So if I want to see where the general direction is shifting, I'll put on Paul Feinbaum on my podcast, and kind of, keep it on in the background while I work because, of course, it's insanity for 4 hours what he does, just fielding calls from across the SEC and talking college football 24/7. So I turned it on yesterday, and the amount of vitriol from these callers about student athletes getting paid, I was blown away. I was blown away. We really didn't get, we got a little bit of, people calling in and saying, yeah, I think I agree with it on principle, but I'm worried that X, Y, and Z is going to happen to my favorite collegiate sport or to my university as a result of this. And I thought it was a pretty sensible discussion. But yesterday was off the walls. And that's a small sample size, right? Like you know what you're signing up for when you go to be informed about college football to the callers of the Paul Feinbaum show. But I was shocked at how much pushback there was, and I still can't for the life of me understand why.
People I think are afraid of college football as they kind of know it and growing up being dead and gone, which I think to an extent it kind of is. College football as it was in the 80s and in the 90s and when Tennessee was good in early 2000s, like that era is gone. But this, I think, just kind of confirms it for a lot of people that college football is no longer college football to them. And that upsets a lot of people.
Well, and listen, I do sympathize with that because college basketball, we talked about this yesterday, it's a shell of itself, without question. It has been stripped down to where the sport of college basketball is unrecognizable. And I think that people fear that in college football as well. Now, it's a much harder institution to kind of remove the care from. You're going to have college basketball was, I don't want to call it a niche sport, but it's definitely a regional sport. So there was always that kind of indifference until you get to the actual tournament itself. Whereas college football, it's a bit of the opposite problem, right? You're super invested, and this is why they plan to expand the college football playoff. You're super invested at the start of the season, and then once you realize that your team is not going to be competing for a legitimate place in the college football playoff among the final four teams as it's presently constituted, then you kind of check out in late October or early November if you're like the Pac-12 or if you're a fringe Big Ten team that thinks that you have no chance of getting in, or UCF, who continues to claim that they were at one point the rightful college football national champions. So the fear of that, I sympathize with. But, people understand that this is – if you don't want it to become more like a business, then stop treating it like a business. There are multi-million, close to billion-dollar deals being done for the television rights to this thing. That inherently is going to make this more corporate than you probably want it to be. It's just one of these back in my day things, right? Like
it's people, that's exactly what it is.
It's people clinging to the memories of pureness or before really the dirtiness of it was exposed in the way that social media exposes everything now and makes everything inherently worse.
It's always been dirty. You think back to the Pony Express, SMU back in the day, but it's just more and more money involved with each passing era. So it's gotten to the point where you just cannot ignore it, and there is no logical argument. There just isn't. It does not exist for why players performing this labor should not receive some of what they are making for the NCAA and these institutions.
I hate to say it, but is it an intelligence thing? No, seriously. I don't mean to say that dismissively. That's a genuine question. Do we just think people fundamentally don't understand what's happening in college football? Do we think it's just an intelligence thing? Because that's the only and please don't take me the wrong way. I know that probably sounds super snobby, and maybe it is to a degree, but I just think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what exactly the sport is getting ready to go through and what the sport has already been. That I think is where this disconnect is coming from. So, Mike Golic Jr. of ESPN played college football at Notre Dame for a long time. He's going to have some thoughts, I'm sure, on name, image, and likeness and on the event that he's calling with our buddy Jason Fitz over the weekend, which is the Nathan's famous hot dog eating competition, international hot dog eating competition. We will talk to Mike Golic Jr., Mr. Worldwide in the hot dog world, coming up next on Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
When you need to know all the info faster, check out the Zone Daily Podcast with Will Bowling. Available on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and the entire Zone Podcast Network.
for the Nathan's Famous, let me be specific, the Nathan's Famous 2021 4th of July International Hot Dog Eating Contest. It is taking place on the 4th of July. It is going to be broadcast on ESPN at noon Eastern Time. That's 11 a.m. Central Time if you're here in Nashville, Tennessee. Mike Golic Jr. joins us now on the show. Big man, what's up?
What's going on, Buck? How we doing?
Man, we're doing just fine. I was just opining about whether I envy you and Fitzy or not for your broadcast assignment this week, because, I mean, it sounds like a great time, and you guys killed it last year when you were on the call, but it also seems like something that I would do once, Golic, and then never want to do again.
Yeah, see, this has just been such a firm part of my 4th of July DNA for so long, which for anyone that knows my family, not overly shocking in that, but especially doing it last year, we did the, Major League Eating Island version of the Nathan's Hot Dog Contest where we were indoors. There were fewer eaters. And so now we're going to get it out. It's going to be in the baseball stadium on Coney Island where the Cyclones play over there. So bigger crowd, a lot more fans back out this year for the event, a more robust field of eaters, which is going to be exciting. And so I think just knowing that, Fitz and I last year, it was like a first date. We were going out there. We were trying to really put our best foot forward and impress them and hope that we were invited back next year. And when we got the call, we came running.
There it is. I mean, listen, you and Fitzy are a perfect pair for this particular assignment. They're going to crush it on July 4th coming up this weekend. Make sure you don't miss the broadcast of the Nathan's Famous International Hot Dog Eating Contest on ESPN. This is worldwide, as the famous Pitbull would say. So from a play-by-play standpoint, Mike, because I'm like fascinated by the mechanics of this. What the hell does the prep look like for a job like this when you're on the call for a broadcast of a hot dog eating contest? That's not something that you can have like a precedent for, is there?
Well, I mean, I just treat it like a football game, right? Like so I'm just going over and comparing notes, but this is my board from last year. Like it had, and again, much smaller field. So I was able to put the men's and women's field side by side on this card here. But essentially for me, and I had a lot of conversation with Adam Amin about this, play-by-play, a guy over at Fox now, but was my colleague at ESPN and did the hot dog contest for a few years before he left. And I took over in this spot and I'm trying to fill those very big shoes. And so mechanically, it's cool because obviously I'm there now wearing a different hat than I do when I'm in a football broadcast booth. And so I'm making sure that people are updated on time. I've got background information on all these eaters. What other disciplines do they work in and eat best in here? What were their numbers from last year? One of the cool features ESPN's had too is digitally in the boxes that you'll see keeping track of how many hot dogs each eater's had. They've gotten pace stats up there now so we can see what kind of hot dog and bun pace you are on per minute going through this contest to try and get a sense of where every eater is at through all this. Some like to come out of the gate strong, some start a little slower and finish stronger. So it's just, I think really as this contest has grown, I mean, they've been doing this for so long. I believe it's the 18th consecutive year we've been on ESPN with it. So you just keep finding new ways to give people information.
Mike Golic Jr. here with us on 104.5 The Zone. You can catch him on the call of the International Hot Dog Eating Contest, Nathan's Famous, on ESPN. He's also the host of Chiney and Golic on ESPN. Make sure that you catch it later this afternoon. Mike, I maintain that the Joey Chestnut sports science is one of the most fascinating things that I've ever seen, where they had I can't remember what exactly this bag was made of that they were simulating a human stomach with, but they went through the process. Sports science, one of the coolest features that ESPN ever did, and I maintain that even as it's no longer on ESPN. But what about these athletes surprises you about their physical ability to be able to consume, or how they go about the preparation, or what their strategies, as you've kind of outlined, look like? What kind of surprises you about these guys and gals?
Yeah, I think what you just said there is athletes, because that's what this is transitioned to. When people think, it's almost kind of thinking of the old UFC where you had these true cage matches where guys are snapping arms and it's so rough around the edges. And now you get to this point where eating, people used to think of guys that looked like O linemen, guys that looked like me. He's one of the most beloved characters in Major League Eating, Badlands Booker, who is always a welcome addition to this. But people assume every Major League Eater is a large, physically imposing person like Badlands. And you look around now, it is athletes. Like the amount of people, as I'm getting ready for this on the men's and women's side, who are diet coaches in their everyday life, who are working in the health and fitness space somehow, who have abs, like they realized along the way, and you hear a lot of these eaters talk about it, that if I am in better shape, I'm able to breathe better through the course of this year. I'm able to absorb this situation a lot better. And so I think it's that balance and being regimented for a lot of this that's really driven home. This is something that, the best people in this sport, like any other sport, dedicate their time to this, spend time, especially leading up to this contest, getting the dogs in, doing the work. And so I think just that, how for most people, and I keep emphasizing that word, these are athletes. These are people that train for this specifically and do it at a high level.
I work and live in the Southeast, Mike, so I'm already having to convince them that soccer players are athletes. I don't know if they're going to accept the hot dog eating contestants as well.
I feel like that'd be a little easier to sell down there considering how much people are eating in the Southeast. So I figured at some point it's like, hey, that guy could put down 100 sloppy joes in 12 minutes. You need to respect him. I feel like that's the love language.
It's 100% so. It's an easier selling point than it is now that we have an MLS team, because we are, of course, a meat and three city. And so that is an admirable quality among Southerners, because we don't miss meals around here. Mike Golic Jr. here with us on the show. So can it be a 4th of July if you don't eat a hot dog, Mike? Because now you've become the hot dog analyst. This is where we come for expert analysis when you are on the show. Can you celebrate the 4th of July if you do not consume a hot dog?
No, and to be honest, I think the reason this always felt like destiny is because I could never go through the 4th of July without eating a hot dog. I'm my father's son. I mean, this is just, and that's part of the cool part about this is, for years it was on the corner of Surf and Stillwell there in Coney Island, which is such a busy area already on 4th of July weekend for people that are going to the beach, people that might not even be aware of this contest or weren't at some point, but you pass by that Nathan's Famous hot dog stand that's been there for over 100 years now. And that's just become so woven into the fabric of how people do this, myself included.
Mike, how much film study is involved in your prep?
A fair amount, actually. What Major League Eating does really well is providing access and information. Their YouTube channel, they do a lot featuring the various eaters and what they do in their off time. You've got eaters that are going to just do challenges that aren't for some record, that aren't in a sanctioned competition, but they understand this is an entertainment product. And so I just watched, a couple of the pair of Major League Eaters here, Juan Rodriguez and his wife, consume just over 400 donut holes in about just under an hour's time together. And so it's just things like that, going and seeing, all right, what's everyone kind of into when they're not doing hot dogs? Because I think that's the thing we all focus on.
Man, that's outstanding. Has your pops asked to get in on the competition? By the way, the article, and this is probably something I should have said to you off air before we came on, but the article in The Athletic with your dad, I so enjoyed reading, and I can't wait to see what he does next. He's been, of course, a staple in American sports talk conversation and just American sports in general. So that was a fantastic thing to be able to catch up on what he's doing. But has your dad ever tried to get involved?
You know what? So Dad, back in the day, I remember on the show, they did an eating contest on Mike and Mike at one point. Crazy Legs Conti, who is one of the more renowned, famed, well-known eaters, going to be back at Nathan's this year. They had Crazy Legs come on the show. I believe they had Jeff Janis, his name, Eater X, as he was better known, his persona on the stage. They had those guys come in studio in Bristol, and they did a pizza eating contest with my dad. And listen, he found out, like I did when I did a beignet eating exhibition against Joey Chestnut, that these are pros. Dad may be past his eating prime right now, right? The guy's lean.
He looks great.
Like 235 at this point. He does. And you know what? It might fit right in with the competitive eaters of now. But I just know to get there, Dad's had to dial back the volume. He's not putting down as many hot dogs and buns as he used to. The stomach's not as stretched out. So Dad may be past his prime on that, but I would be shocked if at some point he doesn't get his way into this.
Man, I just watching him eat powdered donuts on national television is among the highlights of my. I think that was in high school when I remember watching him do that. He cracked me up. the way that he was. I mean, he powered through it. It was one of the more impressive feats because I can't even eat during a commercial break around here. I have a pistachio stuck down my throat and choke and sound like I'm dying on the air.
And listen, he had to shit because the powdered donuts, I believe, was a shaming of Stu Gatz from the Dan Levitard show,
Yes.
who made some claim about this. And listen, my father understands the brand, right? He had a long time ago when he started doing radio, he said, this is going to be a family show and we are going to eat. And so whether it is eating a dozen pancakes during a 4-hour show, doing that, him and I eating a pound of bacon against one another in the last couple of years on air, which I won.
A pound
by
each?
the way. Yeah, we each had a pound of bacon. We went down. God love the people at the ESPN cafeteria. We went down and said, "Can you cook us a pound of bacon each?" And they looked at us and they said, "All right, we'll go ahead and do this." And they brought it up to the studio and we went at it. And when the dust settled and the grease settled, I was the last man standing.
When the grease settled, I'm sure it took quite some time for the grease to settle in your guys' stomach. Mike Golic Jr. of ESPN here with us on 104.5 The Zone. I mean, Mike, I could sit here and talk about competitive eating with you all day, but given that you are yourself a former college athlete, I would be remiss if I did not ask you one name, image, and likeness question. We did the show, obviously, yesterday. Tennessee, one of the states to immediately put it into effect. The University of Tennessee has not been able to capitalize on much on the field in the past couple of years, but sure as hell they could sell the brand of the Power T. I left the radio show yesterday, and I turned on Paul Feinbaum, your colleague, your teammate over there, just to kind of see what the rest of the country was saying about this. And my you know what I'm about. My jaw dropped, Mike, with the amount of people just screaming about their protest of college athletes getting paid. And I can't for the life of me understand why. Can you help me make sense of what the hell is happening with people?
Because I think change is scary, and I think college football is a sport where the fans have really, especially, always aligned themselves with the establishment.
What's scary about this, though? What's scary?
Well, because anything resembling change in college sports feels the minute something happens and someone gets more, it feels like for everyone, it's this threat to this thing that's so sacred to them. And you know this better than I do sitting down there. I mean, hell, I went to school in South Bend where those 7 fall Saturdays make an entire town. The Power T is worshipped in Tennessee. And so these are things that feel sacred and move on. The underbelly that's always a little disconcerting to me is it feels like anytime we talk about these kids getting a little bit more, I'm always like, all right. And honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Justice Brett Kavanaugh, in his takedown of the NCAA after that ruling, said, you would never go to a restaurant and say, this meal tastes better because I know the chef is paid less.
Right.
Right? Like if the chef is well paid, you would say, hey, this meal's probably even better. I can expect more from this. And what I keep trying to tell people through all this is the football you see on the field, the basketball you see on the court, the hockey, whatever the sport is, it's not going to materially change because of this. Like it's you're going to wake up and we're going to digest all this. We're drinking NIL through a fire hose right now. Eventually it's going to settle. We're going to hear about a few big deals here and there for star players. And the rest of these are going to, like in the NFL, happen for these players in a spot that we don't see because they're not all big tens of thousands, hundreds of $1,000 deals. It's going to be just like if a backup offensive lineman for the Raiders goes and does an appearance somewhere. We're not going to hear about every single one of it, but right now we're enamored with it, so it's freaking people out.
Right. In 2 months, we're not going to be keeping track of every athlete that starts a Cameo page. Mike Golic Jr., kind enough to give us some of his time here on 104.5 The Zone. Make sure you don't miss the broadcast of the Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Contest on ESPN Sunday, July 4th. It will take place here in Nashville, 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern. And, of course, Chene and Golic coming up later this afternoon. Mike, I got people calling in to tell me how not Southern I am, so I'm looking forward to the bleep storm that we've stirred up here together. But what can the people look forward to on Chene and Golic this afternoon?
Chene and Golic Jr. this afternoon, we are going to give you another preview of the hot dog contest. Richard Shea, who's going to be in the booth with me, is one of the heads of Major League Eating, is going to join the show here. We'll get everyone caught up on what we saw last night. The Milwaukee Bucks, like I told everyone, could settle after Giannis got back into this thing. And we will probably continue to react to angry name, image, and likeness opposers as we go through the day, but try and work through this like a therapy couch with everyone, Buck.
Yeah, you love to see it. Certainly we are going through some therapy down here in the South. Mike Golic, Mike Golic Jr., always a pleasure to catch up, buddy. I appreciate you taking some time you're going to kill it again on the broadcast, and make sure you give Fitzy some hell. It always makes me happy.
Absolutely. Consider it done. Thanks, guys.
All right, we will come back. We will lead off with Jim, who wants to tell me how not Southern I am, which I very much look forward to. If you want to chastise me as well, 615-737-1045. That's basically what this show turns into. I'm Buck Reising. This is 1045 The Zone.
Ramon Foster, 11 years of real NFL experience delivered to your ears every weekday morning. J. Martin Ramon, Monday mornings starting at 6 on 1045 The Zone.
get out and get you guys involved because COVID has made that a more complicated task. But now that things in the world and certainly in Nashville are starting to open up a little more, we are going to be able to do something with you. So we'll give you more details on that, and we will begin the contest the week of the – I need to figure out what week we're doing this. So I should probably have thought of that before I said it. But anyway, stick around. We're going to have stuff going on the radio show to find out how you can come with Lucas and I to a soccer game. Josh Black is one of the people that we are going to invite, the comedian, who put on a great show on Wednesday night at Zany's, a comedy for the culture. He seemed really pleased with how that went. So
another sold-out show at Zany's.
Yeah, and he is Nashville SC's fan representative. So we'll have a good time, and we'll tell you more details on that later on. But that email just dropped in my inbox, and so I'm very excited about that. In the meantime, let's see how excited I am for Jim to rip me, because I think that's where this is going to go. Jim is in Nashville. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Buck. Great interview. I've calmed down a little bit since that commercial break. I've been on hold, but you don't know what city, what county Lebanon is in. You don't know what county Mount Juliet is in.
That's right.
You've not drank any moonshine from the hills. You can't claim you're from the South.
You know what? I don't think I claimed that I was from the South, Jim. Thank you for the call. I don't think I did that. I said I live and work in the Southeast. I would not listen. I am not a what do you call it? A culture vulture? I'm not one of these people. Okay. I think we have drawn discernible lines between me and a lot of people who live and work in the South, and I think we have found a way to bridge the gap between our differences. But no, I would not claim to be one of you. I am only blessed with the opportunity to live and work amongst you. I think that's a fair assessment. Yes?
Yes. I think where you took issue was when you said we are a meat and three city.
Well, we are a meat and three. Listen, I own property here, okay? I get to say we. For as much as that hurt me to see that deposit, that first amount that I had to put down on my house to get my offer accepted and all of these things for that pound of flesh and many more pounds of flesh. Maybe not enough because I need to go on a diet, but for that pound of flesh that went to my mortgage company, I get to say we.
Do they not have meat and threes in Indiana?
No, they just have these giant table-sized
pork chops.
What do they call it? Tenderloin.
Right.
You don't know whether it's beef. You don't know whether it's pork. It's just a tenderloin sandwich. That and like cow tongue and cow brain sandwiches. Because I mean, where I'm from in Indiana is basically it's 10 minutes from Kentucky, and Kentucky is considered the South. So like, I'm not here to split hairs or whatever. But I will not claim to be a Southerner. I have not claimed to be a Southerner. I just appreciate the city and the people that I get to live and work with. There, we have found resolution. What is starting wars, by the way, is heading into 4th of July weekend. I'm always conflicted about the 4th of July because I'm not crazy about like big crowds. And Rhett Bryan was telling us yesterday that they expect 400,000 people downtown for Nashville's fireworks celebration, which is so cool. They kill it. I can't remember what Rhett said as to what the scale of the Nashville fireworks are as it relates to the rest of the country, but it's one of the biggest in the country. I can't remember if it's top 5 or top 10. But 400,000 people expected downtown for the fireworks. And one, like, I'm not a fireworks person. I don't get it. Like, it doesn't do anything for me to light things on fire and watch them explode. That to me sounds like the behavior of the sociopath. But I understand why it's fun for people and for kids and all that. I also don't eat the hot dogs, which I wasn't going to say. I wasn't going to say to Mike Golic Jr. because he told me that it could not be a 4th of July if I did not consume a hot dog. But my hot dog experience in the last 6 years has been like when the Nissan Stadium press box food is bad and they've run out of options of food to give us and they don't have the carving board or whatever where I can get like actual food. No, they have the individually packaged hot dogs.
Or like
during COVID.
Like the halftime hot dogs.
Yeah, but they stopped doing that for a while because they got a new food service company. And I was thrilled because it looks like, I mean, it's like a professional operation in there. like a carving board station. You got not a salad bar, but like a salad spread. You have different options of different meals that you can get, and then COVID hits, and we all get individually packaged hot dogs.
So when's the last time you had a hot dog? I guess in Nissan Stadium.
It would have been
last fall?
Nissan Stadiums at
But
some
when's the
point.
last time you willingly had a hot dog?
Willingly?
Because you wanted one.
Because I wanted one?
Yeah, whether it was at a ball game or
Oh, man.
grilling out or 4th of July, anything.
I really couldn't tell you. And I don't say that to be like funny or I don't think that's hugely controversial. I think there's plenty of people that don't like hot dogs. But like there's nothing about a hot dog that seems appealing to me. Now, brats, I'm from Indiana. Brats are a big deal.
Right.
Brats are great.
No, and a hot dog is not like a delectable food item, but there's something so simple and pure about a hot dog, about like sitting at a baseball game and eating a hot dog with a bag of peanuts. Like you don't go to a baseball game and just immediately want a hot dog.
No, but buddy, I mean, and again, in the effort to avoid sounding like a snob, when's the last time I've been to a sporting event as a fan? That's the problem that I have most is I kind of lose my connection to the fan experience because I haven't been to a. Well, no, that's not true. We went to my first Nashville SC game, and their opener. What would that have been? April
29th?
Okay, so
17th.
So
like
April.
that.
But outside of that, like it's been so long since I've been to a sporting event, is because I work. I cover an NFL team. And
Yeah, but you'll go to a Sounds game every now and then.
Yeah, but I'm not sitting in the stands and watching baseball. I'm walking my happy butt out to the outfield and drinking and playing like cornhole or something like that. I don't think I watch an inning of baseball when I go to the Sounds Park, respectfully. I feel like that's the case for a lot of people. 615-737-1045. Uh-oh. My call screener says that there is somebody who is going to take great issue with this because I know that this man is a master on the grill. He is Ron Slay, co-host of 3HL later this afternoon. He's not in the building. He's on the phone. Hello, Slay.
I'm in the building.
No, you're not. Don't lie to people.
Buck, first of all, if you're going to have a hot dog, make sure the hot dog is being seasoned, Buck. You just can't eat a hot dog plain with just mustard on it. The hot dog must be seasoned and prepped properly before you get ready to consume that.
Okay, that's fair criticism because Slay, I'm not a hot dog eater. So like I'm just looking at the hot dog in its most basic form and thinking I want nothing to do with that.
Of course, that's just like going to go get food and then you eat it and there's no salt, there's no pepper, there's no nothing, there's no taste. It's just bland. Which is why that Memphis guy said that Tennessee would be better than Memphis because it's so bland. Remember that?
No, I do. Because it lacked soul, Slay. That was the analysis by that dude on Twitter.
See, you took the words right out of my mouth. All right, Buck, man, you have a good one. Always remember, man, Kai ain't got no roof.
He's back from Vegas. It's not enough that he has 3 hours between him and Dawn. Well, Brent's out, so it's more Slay.
Don and Ron.
Than Don and Ron. Dawn and Ron. See, normally it's his co-host who's harassing me during the show. Normally it's Dawn that peppers me.
I might be harassing them this afternoon with the Italy-Belgium game happening during 3HL.
What have you been? Have you been just because that's among my least favorite things in the world. When Will Bowling comes in here, when Braves Day baseball is on, and sits here and disrupts my work environment. Now I'm a picky person.
Yeah,
anyway.
like 3HL are much nicer than you are. Like Brent will be like, yeah, come watch the game. We'll turn it on.
I mean, so I'm the bad guy because I don't want Will Bowling in here screaming about how some dude should be sent back to the minors when the Braves suck as they inevitably do. Although I think they won last night.
Well, it is different when it's one thing on hanging on the edge of your seat for a baseball game that's going to happen 180 more times in the season and going wild at every pitch compared to a competition that happens every 4 years, which is my case.
Okay, but that makes you more obnoxious when you're in here. Like that doesn't detract from your enthusiasm.
And everybody celebrates and stuff differently, but like I just get like scared. Like I might just be curled up in the fetal position in the corner when I'm watching this game.
Well, because Italy's playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Italia.
Yeah, I will not be relaxed or yelling at the TV screen. I'll just be very scared and timid as I watch the game.
Tomahawk Chop 22 in the comments section on Zone TV where you can watch us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. Tomahawk Chop on Twitch says, I've been getting Botox since my late 20s. You only get one face, Buck. You got to take care of it. Well, I'm like officially in my late 20s. In 2 weeks, I will be 28. And now I'm at the point in my life where my girlfriend she's been getting Botox because she doesn't want wrinkles in her forehead. And she says it helps with headaches. That's something that I've heard before, and I get migraines like a mother bleeper. So if that helps prevent my headaches and also makes my face look as smooth as Tom Brady's, then I'll absolutely do Botox. I'll do Botox before I eat a hot dog. We'll come back and talk about actual sports. Why don't we do that? Because an Olympic athlete just received a month-long suspension for marijuana use from WADA, the World Anti-Doping Administration. Sha'Carri Richardson has been one of the most famous Olympic athletes through her qualification as a track and field athlete, and now she has been suspended for a month by WADA and is at risk of missing out on her particular event when the Olympics go to Tokyo this month in a couple of weeks. July 14th, I do believe, is when the Olympic ceremonies start. I'll have to double-check my dates on that. But she's been suspended, and I'm going to tell you why I hate it and why you should too. That's coming up next. I'm Buck Reising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
Need a Titans fix? Bam! Just ask Alexa to play 104.5 The Zone, your home for Titans football and the flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
in his duty. It's a dereliction of duty, I believe is the term. I was told that at the top of the hour I would receive breaking news. Is that factually inaccurate?
The worst.
What do you
You're
mean?
the worst.
I'm the worst?
What news are you talking about?
I'm talking about the idea that a TSU basketball player just signed a $2 million name, image, and likeness deal. That you don't think that warrants the update?
I'd like to hear you tell it.
Oh, okay.
I'm saving it for you, pal.
The way he just spit pal at the microphone. Yeah, real pal. I'm sorry. I'll stop throwing you under the bus. I've been really bad about that this week. I'm going to have to pay a bunch of fines to Home Street Home. But that's fine. No pun intended. All right, so what I'm talking about before, actually, let's have this as a preface for the conversation that we're getting ready to have, because Darrington has called in to talk about name, image, and likeness, and I teased here that we would be talking about Sha'Carri Richardson and her suspension from the Olympic competition. We will still do that here and into the second hour, but this is obviously a story with local ties. So Hercy Miller is one of Master P's, the famous rapper, one of Master P's children. He is a TSU incoming freshman, and he is going to play college basketball at TSU. So this is the headline from Front Office Sports, okay? Hercy Miller, incoming Tennessee State freshman and son of Master P, is signing a deal with Web Apps America for $2 million. Miller will be a brand ambassador for the tech company who's committed to supporting HBCU leaders. $2 million. So this is, and I haven't seen the facts and the figures on the endorsement deals that have come down the line so far among collegiate athletes. But the trend that I did notice is that the major corporations, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, what else that I have in front of me? Chick-fil-A, for example, just based on what's sitting around in the studio as I look at Ron Slay's Chick-fil-A barbecue sauce lunchbox that I tried to throw out to no avail. But the major corporations took a step back yesterday and kind of waited to see and are in wait and see mode to kind of gauge the temperature on where this is going to go. So you saw athletes starting Cameo pages. You saw a deal with PetSmart. You saw, local establishments in the various college towns that these teams play in, that these universities exist in. You saw them sign local deals with local ties to the college athletes. You've seen guys who are getting paid to host events or to make appearances at events. All of these things pretty standard, but nothing with this kind of money. $2 million to be a tech company endorser for a TSU basketball player. I'd be curious to see, because that's a question Ramon Foster asked me yesterday when I did my interview with J. Martin Ramon. Will we see an athlete make $1 million? You just saw one sign up for $2 million. While we work our way through this interim period between July 1st yesterday leading up to January 1st, 2022, that's what they're considering the interim period for these states who have legalized name, image, and likeness capitalism. Goal there, Lucas. You held your stuff there together. We're watching the Euro. Spain just scored. You okay?
Yeah, nasty deflection. Feel for Switzerland there.
There is your Euro 2020 update for the morning. But to see how these major corporations kind of approach athletes with caution and whether they consider a spend on an individual athlete or a group of individuals to be more worth their dollar than what they are paying these various universities to be the official soft drink of the University of Tennessee, for example, or the official real estate agency of the University of Alabama. It will be curious to see how this money starts to trickle out. And that's not trickling out. $2 million to endorse a tech company. That's as Mike Golic Jr. put it earlier in the show. That's drinking NIL through a fire hose. 615-737-1045. Darrington is in Nashville. He wants to talk about NIL.
Bug, first of all, I got to say, from the other day when you ripped me a new one about my Matt Castle and Ryan Tannehill conversation.
It was pretty bad. I love you, buddy, but it was pretty bad.
I've been defending myself, and I had to go pull the numbers, which I did pull the numbers and found out that he's more of a Kirk Cousins. But anyway, yeah, as far as this NIL thing going, and the whole Hershey Miller, I think that's more aligned with how much work his father's put in and leading the way, because Master P has been putting in work and been trying to get more going anyway. So I give credit for that. But in your honest opinion, who do you think would have been a bigger, would have got the most off of the NIL between Deion Sanders, Tim Tebow, and Johnny Football himself?
Man, that's a good question. Thank you for the call, Darrington, who has changed his position. Ryan Tannehill is no longer compared to Matt Schaub, in his opinion. He is now Kirk Cousins. So he had to squeeze a take in there. So the question is, who would have been a bigger athlete when it comes to name, image, and likeness? Deion, so primetime Tebow or Johnny Football? I think you have to look at this because it's not an even playing field, for lack of a better term, right? Deion was pre-social media, damn near pre-internet. So that would have effect. Now, Deion transcended in a way that we haven't seen. Like, he is among these names when you talk about Deion Sanders, and obviously Deion carried well into the pros in a way that the other two, Tebow and Johnny Manziel, did not. So he had more brand equity over the course of his career to make Deion Sanders the star that he currently is. But in his time period, I don't think that he would have been able to see max profit because of how the landscape changed for the other two guys. Tebow is obviously more recent in the early 2000s, which, I mean, it was a phenomenon unlike anything I think we've really seen in sports. Still to this day, Tim Tebow transcends. Anytime we talk about Tim Tebow, whether he's a fourth string, fifth string tight end for the Jags, or he's a minor league baseball player for the Mets, or he's just doing television for the SEC network, Tim Tebow, people flock to this man in droves. Now, not only does he have the star power of football, but there's a religious component to Tim Tebow as well that's made him kind of this, what's the term, messianic figure, where you get not only the football fanatics, but you get people who believe and are of the same faith as Tim Tebow that gravitate to him because of how strongly he is grounded in his faith. I think there's a big component of that as well. His mother does a lot of work in that space, from my understanding. So that I think would elevate Tebow. Johnny Football's like a comet across the sky. I mean, he was the biggest figure in college sports while he was at Texas A&M, and he did carry that kind of weight his first year in Cleveland, but then everything fell off a cliff. So I think the answer is Tebow, no?
Yes, but Johnny did have the power of social media more than either of those two guys.
It's true. So we're grading this on an uneven plane, because if Deion was probably the biggest star and is the biggest star of the three of them, but without social media, the conversation changes around Tebow and Deion Sanders. Now, to their credit, though, they didn't need it. They did not need social media. This was at a different time in the media landscape where these guys were able to transcend even without the direct access, basically, that social media gives us to these guys and girls. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. 615-737-1045. Peg is in Nashville. She wants to talk about NIL. Hello, Peg.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
I sure can. You sound great.
Okay. I have a few questions. First and foremost, these companies are paying them for appearances. Will the kids have to, file taxes and do all that sort of thing? Is that considered income?
Yes, correct, Peg. It is my understanding that they will have to. That's really the only transparency that they have to have on this so far is, to Uncle Sam and the IRS.
Okay. Question 2, are the broadcasts and that sort of thing, like if I've got a kid that wants to hold a Coke bottle, is he out on the field going to be able to stand there and make a kind of a show out of it and become the center of the, wear it on his uniform or do that sort of thing?
Well, that's where it gets more complex because that I do not believe is going to be allowed because these universities, and thank you for the call, Peg, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation.
That'd be the school representing the brand.
Right. It's like BYU basically superseding based on BYU's code of conduct what athletes who attend BYU and play sports for BYU would be allowed to endorse. So Alabama is a Nike school, correct? I think I would be almost certain.
Yeah,
that is the case. So if we'll take Mac Jones because he was the most recent quarterback at Alabama. If Mac Jones was an Under Armour athlete but played for a Nike school, he would not be able to have Under Armour. He would not get a specific Under Armour uniform or an Under Armour patch on his Nike uniform. He would be able to, as I understand it, he would be able to endorse Under Armour on his personal social media, and he would be able to do things for Under Armour as a company. But when it comes to the scrutiny or the attention that these athletes receive on a television broadcast, as Peg outlined, they would have to be in compliance with the school's pre-existing business relationships. So that's where it kind of murkies the waters a little bit, to where it's not a complete open buffet of you can endorse anything you want, you can gravitate towards anything you want. I want to continue this conversation and then get into the Sha'Carri Richardson story because that is the biggest story in sports today nationally, and we want to make sure we address it. Also, what the hell is happening with the Washington football team? Because what the NFL did, what the NFL announced yesterday in their quote-unquote investigation was as shameful as anything I've ever seen. Scott will lead us off on the other side, and we continue this NIL conversation. I'm Buck Reising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
Inside and outside the locker room, we cover the Titans 24/7. Got it! Your home for Titans football and the flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
market coming up at 12:20. So we look forward to our weekly conversation with Coach Mack of Titans Radio. But first, we go to Scott in Bethpage, who has been waiting patiently and wants to talk about NIL. Hello, Scott.
Good morning, man. How you guys doing today?
We are great.
Quick thing. Okay, you sparked a thought a while ago when you were talking about Master P's boy raking in his $2 million. Can you imagine what this is going to look like for legacy players and their kids? And if it is legal for them to take part in some type of advertisement with legacies and their children, and I'm going to drop a name, and it's going to be the king of NIL.
I know which
king.
name.
Should his parents and grandparents get on board with this, in lieu of just saying, "Hey, work your tail off, go get your millions in the NFL"? Arch Manning.
Oh my God!
And I'm going to say this: Arch now, instead of going to Tuscaloosa or Clemson or anywhere else, Arch truly has a reason to consider coming to Tennessee, and I'm going to tell you why. And he also has a reason to consider Ole Miss, not just because of the legacy side of it, but the NIL. And if you think about it for just 1 second, it's not just Knoxville. Knoxville is so much better than Tuscaloosa because of one reason. You go 20 minutes down the road, you're in Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
And all of that sponsorship and all of that entertainment, it's a game changer. I mean, it's a real game changer. It's a game changer for a lot of these athletes, but you start getting into this legacy stuff, it's a whole new animal. Thanks, guys.
Oh, it's a great comment by you. A great call point by Scott. Thank you for the call. 615-737-1045. I mean, Arch Manning, people are drooling over him now, much less what this is going to look like when it factors into his college recruitment. I think of Arch Manning. Now, I think of Bronny James when it comes to legacy players. Look how many – I mean, I don't know how much people are watching regular season baseball last night. I, for whatever reason – watched a couple of innings of the Arizona Diamondbacks game for after the NBA playoff game had concluded for whatever reason. But like what I notice when I watch MLB games now is how many sons of Major League Baseball players are now in the majors. How much that is going to affect college athletes when it comes to not only are you trafficking in their specific following, their social media reach. Imagine if so. What is Peyton Manning shilling right now? He's not selling us Papa John's pizza anymore. What is his latest endeavor? He's got this new television show on CBS.
With Cooper.
Yeah, but it's sponsored by who? Capital One. It's like a Capital One such and such. Whatever.
You still see him on nationwide.
Okay, so one of Peyton Manning's many commercial endeavors that he's in. What if Arch gets a Capital One endorsement? And Peyton is in, they do a TikTok together or whatever the hell. And it's Peyton and Arch Manning. Maybe Archie makes an appearance. The reach and the scope and the scale of that one social media post, that viral video, it may go viral with Arch on his own. But to have Peyton and Archie involved in that, companies are going to be looking at this and saying, there is an ability to maximize our spend. That, I think, Jim, is where you start to see major corporations get involved, because we're talking small school stuff right now. In fact, I'll bring it up like the latest roundup, for lack of a better term, on what Tennessee athletes are doing with their name, image, and likeness ability now, because David Ubben has been keeping tabs of this. So let's take this example. Tennessee walk-on offensive lineman Parker Ball, right? We talked about this yesterday. He has about 5,000 Twitter followers, and he's signed on as a brand ambassador for Extra Points, which is a newsletter focused on college sports. Okay, great. It's good money for Parker if he can make it. Parker doesn't have a tremendous following, but he's got enough to where he can reach a few people, and he plays for the University of Tennessee. But the newsletter, Extra Points, is not a major publication, right? I've not heard of that prior to Parker Ball endorsing that and the Vols beat writer tweeting it out. No, companies like Papa John's and Capital One and Nationwide, companies who are already working with Peyton, are going to be like, "Hey, Peyton, you think Arch might have a little interest in a little name, image, and likeness deal? Think we could do that on the side, in addition to whatever the hell they're paying Peyton damn Manning for his name, image, and likeness?" It's going to be a total game changer for legacy athletes, as Jim pointed out. And honestly, not something I had considered until he brought that up.
Yeah, it's a great point. And when he talks about Gatlinburg, like the Ole Miss or Tennessee thing, I mean, that he's going to make a ton of money regardless, though. I mean, wherever Archie Manning ends up.
So what he's going to go to Gatlinburg and get an endorsement for Dolly World?
Dollywood.
Damn it. I do that every time.
It's not the first time.
Every time.
But like
why is that so hard for me?
A guy like Jackson Lampley. You know, he was a 4-star prospect out of MBA, now an offensive lineman at Tennessee. Didn't get a ton of time last year. I don't know how he's really going to factor in this year. I'm sure he'll get some playing time. Son of Brad Lampley, who's a very significant fixture in the Nashville community, does a lot with the Music City Bowl, was a teammate. He blocked for Peyton Manning. A guy like Jackson Lampley, as a legacy at Tennessee and an offensive lineman, probably has a very good chance to make a good chunk of change because of his last name and what his dad did in the 90s with Peyton Manning in Tennessee.
Yeah, so like what's the famous restaurant? Gus's, right? In Knoxville?
Yeah.
So Gus's is going to be like, oh, yeah, I remember your dad. Let's spend all kinds of money on the son, right? Just as an example.
Yeah.
I think, man, I am so looking forward to watching because, I mean, who doesn't like a little anarchy, right? This is going to absolutely burn college sports down to the ground for a hot second, especially in this time of year where there's not a ton on the sports calendar. Prior to football seasons, both college and pro getting underway, this is going to be a topic of conversation well into the fall, especially when you see how these college athletes try and implement name, image, and likeness endorsements in the fall on the field of play. Because I'm sure, as Peg brought up, somebody's going to have a conflicting sponsorship opportunity. A player is going to have a conflicting sponsorship opportunity with the university that they play for, and probably there's going to be some kind of violation. And honestly, it's not like I don't think they're going to find the kid. They're going to find the university.
Yeah. No, educating the kids on this stuff is going to be so critical for every single program.
Which I think is such a benefit of this.
Oh, yeah. Talk about actually learning life lessons.
Money management.
Yeah.
Which is not, hell, I still struggle with it. That is such a critical, I mean, when we pose the sham that is student athlete, the term student athlete, because they put student first so they can try and, have a veil over what it is these athletes as a product actually are and actually mean to the university's bottom line. But they say student first, athlete second, because that's the better way to church it up and not essentially pay them, or at least that's the way that they've gotten away with it prior to this name, image, and likeness legislation being passed. The idea that this is something that is going to continue to snowball, I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to see how there are legitimate life lessons learned. Now, in the same way that we're talking about, athletes will legitimately get an education in money management because now they will have to balance their budgets. Now they will have to understand how they file their taxes to the IRS and to Uncle Sam, like we all do, where the IRS basically just says, hey, what'd you make last year? Maybe guess what you paid in taxes. We'll tell you if it's wrong, and then we'll fine you afterwards. That's basically how the American tax system works. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. 615-737-1045. Buckethead tweets, give me an athlete with a deal to endorse Gatlinburg's famous Fanny Farkles. I don't know what that is. Should I know what that is? Lucas is fielding phone calls right now, so I am unfamiliar. I'm going to have to Google it. Hopefully Buckethead hasn't put me in a position where I have to Google something on a work computer that is not work safe. But, I mean, in that regard, when people talk about just how much it's going to change all of college sports, I do agree with that. I mean, we spent some time on that earlier in the show. I hate what has happened to college basketball. Maybe college football is on that same trajectory. I have no way of predicting that future. But I do see the potential speed bumps that lie ahead for all of this. And also, I'm very much looking forward to how it plays out. 615-737-1045. Man, you guys are calling in at rapid rate, so we're going to have to I hate to bump the Sha'Carri Richardson conversation again, but it seems people want to get into name, image, and likeness, so that is the path that we will soldier down. Brad Lipford, talking about our conversation earlier, says Deion was the superior athlete, played pro in 2 sports. Because we had a caller, Darrington, ask us the question, whether Deion Sanders, Tim Tebow, or Johnny Manziel would be able to capitalize. Who would be able to capitalize most on name, image, and likeness legislation? Again, I think Deion's star is bigger by a long shot. I think Deion Sanders' star is, markedly bigger because of what he was able to do in college and in the pros. But I honestly think that Johnny Manziel would have been able to supersede them given the era that he played college football in, when social media was rife with all things Johnny football. 615-737-1045. Many people are calling in. We'll start with Daniel in Columbia, who wants to talk about the NIL. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, man. I'm wondering what they're going to do when these kids say they've got offers from USC or Tennessee or Texas, wherever it is. Now, I think a recruiting pitch could be, hey, man, we've got a lower state income tax, lower taxes for you now on this NIL thing. What do you think about that?
Oh, no, I think that's spot on. I mean, it's free agency, right, to a degree. Recruiting changes from what recruiting – thank you for the call, Daniel, 615-737-1045. It changes markedly in that way. Not only are you going to be considering state income taxes now in your recruiting decisions, you're going to be looking at okay, so Nick Saban is a little bit of a different story, right? Because few college coaches are the kind of enterprise, the kind of economy unto himself that Nick Saban is. But not only is Saban's recruiting pitch going to be, hey, let me lay all my championship rings down on the table in front of you or on the Zoom call that we're on if we're talking about the virtual recruiting. Not only am I going to tell you about how many athletes that we put into the pros last year and how many Alabama players were first-round draft picks. That's going to be the two parts of the three-pronged recruiting approach that Nick Saban is going to have. Now Nick Saban is going to be able to walk into a kid's home or call them via Zoom and say, hey, not only can we provide you the best ability or the best chances at winning a championship during your 4-year college career, not only can we provide you a best approach or a best path to the pros. Baby, I got Mercedes-Benz dealerships all over the country at this point, or at least in the Southeast. Hell, he's got one here in Nashville. Nick Saban can find ways to work his athletes into endorsement deals with his Mercedes-Benz dealerships. It's totally going to reformulate the way. Again, it's as close to a fair market as college athletes have had. It's going to totally shift the dynamic that has been associated with recruiting. Now, listen, high schoolers are going to be a lot easier to attract with bright, shiny objects. I don't know that they're going to be flat out. I don't know that Saban's going to be flat out handing a kid a car, but maybe a discount for his parents to get him a car or something like that. Again, until January 1st, it's the Wild West.
But if the deal is through Mercedes-Benz, Nick Saban can hand that kid a car.
I mean, theoretically, he could hand that kid a car, yes.
Or enough money to buy that car.
Well, the endorsement deal could be for enough money to buy a Mercedes-Benz from Nick Saban's dealership, which ultimately puts money in Saban's pocket again and gets him a recruit that can help him win a championship.
By the way, do you know what street that dealership is on?
It's by the airport. I know that.
Envious Lane.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Good for them. Good for them. That's really, man, I wish I lived on Envious Lane. 615-737-1045. Ryan is in the borough. He wants to talk about NIL. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, man, thanks for taking my call. I got a quick question for you, and then I'll hang up. Since all this started, how long do you think it'll take before students start?
You dropped off there, Ryan. Say it again. How long do I think it'll take until what? Oh, terrible phone line. That's a shame.
Yeah, lost him.
615-737-1045. Okay. Now, this time when we come back, I have to talk about Sha'Carri Richardson, right? Like, we got to do it now. We'll do that coming up next. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
They have Middle Tennessee sports on their mind 24/7. The 3HL with Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay. This afternoon starting at 3. 104.5 The Zone.
all day long. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. We've had a lot of people call in about the NIL stuff, so we're going to, as long as you guys want to talk about it, we'll keep the conversation going because there's a million angles on this that I think people have a lot of questions about. In fact, Lucas, you said you were getting calls from people who didn't want to go on the air but had questions that they would like to ask.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the transfer portal, about will players have agents? Will there be holdouts? Like you said, there are endless angles on this. This conversation is going to bleed into the season and further along.
Yeah, we'll start with John in Nashville here in just a second. But in regards to the agency side of things, the way that I understand it is that these third-party businesses, the name of the business or the company that Tennessee is working with is called Altius, okay? These third-party companies that are going to be able to help these athletes understand what kind of contracts they are entering, negate the need for an agent. Now, you may still need a financial advisor, depending on, say, you're Hersey Miller, Master P's son, and you just signed a $2 million deal to endorse a tech company. You're probably going to want some help in figuring out how to manage, how to budget appropriately. I run this through like my prism, okay? I have an agent. My agent negotiates my contract. My agent does not serve also as a financial advisor, but he is involved in negotiating the deals for example, my zone contract and my A to Z contract. And he was an ascent. I would never have been able to get through the negotiation processes by myself because I have no idea. I have zero concept of well, now I know what I'm worth, but it sounds like a terrible thing to say out loud. But I had zero understanding of what my worth might be and what, the ballpark range for somebody in my industry, given the opportunities that were afforded to me with this new zone show, what that might look like. So he was essential to me getting through that negotiation process. From the standpoint of an athlete, that is for example, Tennessee's company Altius, that is what they are there to serve, basically to assess market value for these athletes, understand what it is, the kind of deals that they're looking to take, whether they receive them via DM. Now, listen, the athletes have to be willing to take it to this third-party company to be able to understand exactly how they should go about it rather than just signing the contract sight unseen. So to have agents, I don't think they would – the NCAA is trying to avoid the word agent around anything that they're doing. But they will have people that they are working with that serve the function that an agent might serve in some capacity without actually calling them an agent, if that makes sense. They're working with an agency. They're not working specifically with an agent. 615-737-1045. John is in Nashville. He's got a question about NIL. What's up, John?
What's up, guys? So I was talking I'm a big-time Memphis supporter, and I was talking with a friend of mine, and we kind of came to the realization that schools that maybe aren't in your top five, they're not your Clemsons, your Alabamas, your North Carolina, or not North Carolina, Notre Dame's, et cetera, schools that are in that Power Six, but they're in a big metropolitan area like Memphis or Cincinnati, or even a school like Temple up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Those kind of schools will have access to more companies with deeper pockets than some of these big schools that are storied programs simply because of location. And we were talking about, Walmart. One of the heirs to the Walmart fortune is married to a guy who played basketball for Memphis. They're about to name the new basketball center after him. And if you think Walmart won't start shelling out money to get players to come to Memphis and advertise for Walmart, then you're crazy.
Oh, hell yes. I mean, look,
these smaller schools.
Oh, 100%. You know what I'm fascinated to see, Lucas? I'm fascinated to see what happens with Vanderbilt. Private university, they have not really, unless I've missed it, it's entirely possible that I just haven't seen it. But as far as I have seen, Vanderbilt's plan with how to attack this thing as far as name, image, and likeness is concerned, I haven't yet seen. But consider the announcements that have just been made in the city of Nashville with corporations moving their American corporate headquarters to Nashville. Amazon, part of HQ2, is coming to Nashville. It's a monstrosity in the middle of the Gulch. Oracle just committed to build a multi-billion-dollar campus on the north bank of the Cumberland, right? Just, I think, like 2 miles from my house, right around the Titans practice facility. These kind of major corporations in major metropolitan areas, especially with a place like Nashville, as it continues to grow, TSU, Vandy, how Lipscomb, Belmont, how they capitalize on this with those major corporations that have, bases of operation in the respective cities, like the caller just outlined. I think that's because that's the ultimate question, right? People want to know how this affects the balance of power in the sport, right? They want to know if it's still going to be Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, or replace Georgia, replace one of those two with Oklahoma, and that's just been the rotating cast of an odd Washington every once in a while in the college football playoff.
To just get rocked in the semifinals.
To just get smoked. Whoever the sacrificial lamb
Whatever
is.
Pac-12 sacrificial lamb.
Oh, well, we haven't seen a Pac-12 one yet.
Just Washington.
Oh, Washington. I literally just said Washington. Idiot. It's Friday. Leave me alone.
But no, there is, for Vanderbilt, there is opportunity because that is an SEC football student athlete at a school with the academic prowess of a Vanderbilt. The problem is Vanderbilt has never really done a good job of marketing their student athletes.
Well, we didn't. I mean, and Vandy doesn't have. Maybe Vandy does have the resources for the kind of thing that they would put together, like Tennessee did or like LSU did with the cinematic features that they did on Name, Image, and Likeness. Maybe Vanderbilt has the resources to be able to do that. Maybe they have not committed the resources to those specific lanes to be able to attract athletes on Name, Image, and Likeness Day.
But think about the killing Sarah Fuller would have made last season.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I initially said Kumar Rocker. Sarah Fuller was by far and away the bigger star on campus.
Absolutely.
Game changer. 615-737-1045. Frank is in Franklin, and he wants to talk about NIL. Hello, Frank.
Yeah, appreciate the time, guys. I appreciate it. I'm a Vanderbilt alumni. Vanderbilt's been doing this for years. I've been an alumni for multi-decades. They help you cultivate how you market yourself, how you get in front of people, et cetera, et cetera. You guys keep perpetuating this false narrative that Vanderbilt doesn't do anything for their student athletes. Hell yeah, they do.
Well, that's good context, Frank, because I obviously, me and Lucas are not graduates of Vanderbilt University, so you're correct. We do not have that context, so I appreciate that.
And I mean, as far as Vanderbilt's communication teams and in social media, I mean, they don't stack up with the rest in terms of the top of the SEC, the Tennessees and LSU when it comes to that. Like that's going to be cream rising to the top.
Wait, is Frank still on the line? Did he have more to say there? I'm sorry, Frank. We didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, my point is Vanderbilt's been doing this for decades. It doesn't equate to wins and losses in the SEC. It equates to wins in the corporate world. They're people that are owning businesses, owning buildings. They probably own the building that you're in right now.
It's entirely possible. I mean, we work, we're about 2 miles from Vandy. Thanks for the call, Frank. 615-737-1045. I mean, it's not like Vandy isn't corporately connected.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, Vanderbilt student athletes are more well-equipped to go into the real world than the majority of other schools, you would think, right? I'm talking about from the standpoint of communication, social media, marketing as an athletic department. Because you're marketing these kids as athletes, not to go own a business or be part of a corporation. Athletics marketing on social media especially is where Vanderbilt has fallen behind, right?
Well, and I think Frank is that's where Frank's gripe is that we haven't seen it. Now, what I would say to Frank is that if we aren't seeing it, then it's not. I mean, it seems like a basic way to do the analysis. But if I don't see it, I don't know that it exists. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going out and seeking Vanderbilt's stance or what Vanderbilt is doing on name, image, and likeness, because Tennessee and LSU and these other big state schools are spoon-feeding it to me in a way that I can't miss it.
Yeah, exactly. And those schools have always marketed their athletes. The athletes just have never been able to make money off of it.
But I do understand where Frank's contention is with the idea that they have plenty of corporate connections in Vanderbilt's alumni base for them to be able to help these athletes grow those corporate connections. But the question is, are those alumni ties, Frank, are they strong enough to benefit the company when it comes to their dollar? If the social media machine that Vanderbilt has is lacking in comparison to another university, if that makes sense. 615-737-1045. I've been dying to talk about Sha'Carri Richardson, and y'all won't let me do it. You want to talk about NIL? It's great though. It's great. This is such a complex thing that has so many different layers, so many different tentacles to it that we could really talk about this for the rest of the summer. In fact, I think we will to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're going to, people will run into legal issues. People will run into cross-promoting issues. You will see once we see major corporations start to dip their toe in this, which we kind of already have with Masterpiece on getting a $2 million deal from a tech company. 615-737-1045. Gary is in Nashville. He wants to talk about Vandy with NIL. What's up, Gary?
Well, the Vanderbilt days of me, I went to another school, but a lot of friends there in Nashville went to Vanderbilt. Great school, think tank. Two of my best friends in this life have a real hard time because, and I know you've heard this, they went to the Peabody back during the 70s and early 80s.
Yeah.
And it really bothers them, the fact they still get stuff from Vanderbilt wanting them to contribute when, like one said, I never played for Vanderbilt. I played for Peabody. But yet he was given an opportunity to play two sports, baseball and football, where the team to the east would not give him that opportunity, even though he was a big fan of that team. He went to where he thought he could do the best at. So I think that you need, please, when you're differentiating between the Vanderbilt of the old Vanderbilt, the Peabody Vanderbilt connection, and the actual Vanderbilt students who they all are now, there's a big divide right there between us kids, especially NIL kids. They were real good. Larry Smith was great about keeping the baseball people in Nashville because they could play both sports. He was a fantastic salesman. I'm sure still is. But I love my town. Had no problem with the Vandy, but some of the players that played under the Peabody system still do.
Hey,
anyway, enjoying your show. Take care.
Thanks so much, Gary, for the call. 615-737-1045. There's, again, so many layers to this. Because now you got athletes like, so for example, Titans running back Darrington Evans. We were talking about him asking for back pay on NIL for all the work that he did at App State. He's like, what the hell? I'm a year removed, 2 years removed from this.
I'll be waiting on my check.
Christian Fulton at LSU. You guys suspended me for pot. I helped win you a national championship. Where is Ed Orgeron's on a book tour while he's dealing with, whether he knew or not about Darius Geis raping a girl at LSU. That's a whole different story that we haven't really had the time to peel back the layers on, but maybe that's something we'll get into because Ed Orgeron's name continues to be linked in that cover-up.
But where you really feel for players like that are the ones that maybe snuck in as an undrafted free agent, never made a roster, and then less than a year later,
has the ability to legitimately change their lives because the average lifespan of an NFL player is, well, not lifespan, but career span is 3 years.
Like their teammates are making thousands. Their former teammates.
Yeah. It's got to hurt a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
But it had to happen.
When we come back, Coach Mack in the final hour of the show, and be damned, I'm going to talk about Sha'Carri Richardson today. We had a pass rush topic prepared. Lucas was already a little bit hesitant about us doing it today because apparently that's what him and Will Bowling are doing in my slot on Monday. So I'm going to be graceful. I'm going to let that one go.
Nice.
I'm going to leave that one for you boys. When we come back, I'm going to rail against the Olympics, the USADA and WADA, as Will Bowling correctly pointed out, on the other side. I'm Buck Reising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
Stream Titans' opinion on all your devices. It's the 104.5 The Zone app. Your home for Titans football and the flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
888-537-1045. Or you can interact with us on social media because the praise is pouring in, as it does, between the hours of 10 and 1. Puka writing, glad you are leaving some topics for the younger people, Lucas Panzica and Will Bowling. Hope your vacation goes well since you need a lot of extra rest as one becomes older. 30 is looming in your near future. Are you kidding me? I spend one morning talking about I need Botox in my forehead because my forehead wrinkles are getting bad because I don't smile at people.
I love Puka so much.
She's vicious. And I love Puka to death. She's one of our day ones, P1s. And I will not disclose Puka's age, but she is an elderly woman, and she is up to date on everything in sports. She probably knows more about the local sports market than I do. But 30 is not looming in my near future. 28 is looming in my near future. Everybody slow the hell down. All right? I got 2 weeks before I turn 28, and I'm not happy about it, even though it's my birthday and it's my favorite day of the year for obvious reasons, because it's the day that I get to make all about me, more so than any other day that I get to make about me. In fact, it is the month of July, so I'm going to start wearing, from here on out, Lucas, I'm going to start wearing a crown on my head until such time as my birthday passes.
I know you have one.
No, I do. It's sitting in my office.
I know.
100%. Wear my bathrobe and my Derrick Henry crown into work every day. Will Bowling is also here. Hello.
What's up? You and I are almost birthday twins.
Are we?
I'm a week after you.
Okay.
8 days to be exact.
Well, mine comes first.
Yeah, that's right. You came first into this world too. 24 is creeping up on me.
As long as we have that understanding.
I don't get to take any vacation because I'm young and spry.
Yeah, well, you know.
Because I have to fill in for you when you take it, and you take so much that I can't take any.
Whoa! Hey,
I'm kidding.
I earn every day that I get. It's not true. I do. It's outrageous that they compensate me for this, for what I do for a living. But Will is here not only to annoy me and watch soccer while the show is on.
That's right.
Spain.
At least it's not the Braves.
Spain, yeah. Well,
big win last night, though.
And they put 20 runs on the Mets the other day.
Hey, 3.5 back.
What the hell?
Don't let the Braves get hot.
They stink.
Don't let them get hot.
Spain up 1-0 presently over the Swiss in Euro 2020. So Will is mostly in here to loiter and watch soccer. But we are actually glad to have Will's presence for once. Oh, and V-Love says he's actually B-Day twins with Will Bowling.
That is my biggest claim to fame, is sharing a birthday with V-Love.
Okay.
That's mayor of Nashville.
That we will take. 615-737-1045. I have been dying to get into the Sha'Carri Richardson topic all day long since I saw the story that she failed a drug test and was poised. I mean, she was poised to be the favorite in Tokyo for the 100-meter race, without question.
She's one of them, for sure.
She was one of the biggest. She's been probably, I mean, I would argue at this point, and I went through Team USA, outside of the basketball players, both the men's and the women's, is there a bigger star in this Olympics, or would have been star, than Sha'Carri Richardson? She broke onto the scene in a way that I was not expecting, that I was not prepared to pay attention to track and field in that way. But her presence and the way that she dominated in the qualifiers in Oregon a couple of weeks ago, she took the scene by storm.
Sydney McLaughlin would be the most marketable star for Team USA in track. She just broke the world record in the 400 hurdles at the Olympic trials, winning it. She was actually in Nashville for the meet I did for ESPN here at NBA a couple weeks ago. She was an NCAA champion around the same age from Kentucky. But really, it was going to be her, Sha'Carri Richardson, Matthew Centrowitz, the returning gold medalist in the 1500, who was the U.S.'s first gold medalist in that event since the 60s, I believe, and Ryan Krauser, the thrower who broke the shot put world record at the Olympic trials. It was going to be like those four. But Sha'Carri Richardson, this is before we get into the details of her not running the 100, she's still going to be on the Olympic team.
Right.
She will be on the 4x100 without a doubt. Possibly the 4x4, but probably just the 4x100, which gives the U.S. a pretty good chance to win that event against Jamaica, who's outstanding. But it was going to be Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price from Jamaica and Sha'Carri Richardson as the two favorites for the gold medal in Tokyo.
She's 21 years old. She's a star in the making, and she just failed a drug test, basically, according to WADA and USADA, the doping governing bodies.
For THC.
For THC,
Yes.
correct. Failed a drug test after her win with her testing positive. This is from the Today Show. With her testing positive for THC, the chemical found in marijuana. So she went on the Today Show today. And here's what I'll say about this, because I hate this. I hate it because I think that we are still suspending people or punishing people for marijuana usage when we can't even figure out a consensus in this country about what is legal and what is illegal among the states as it relates to marijuana usage is trivial at this point. In fact, if you are a competitive runner and you're smoking pot and still beating the hell out of everybody, I think she ought to get a medal early, to be honest with you. But I digress. I understand that she broke the rules. The rules are the rules, and that the testing is such that she should probably know better up until the point where she tested positive for THC. So she went on the Today Show to explain what had happened to her. This was Sha'Carri Richardson this morning, courtesy of the Today Show.
And I know you wanted to tell your story. So tell me, what happened? What led up to this positive test?
Just honestly, I want to take responsibility for my actions. I know what I did. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm allowed not to do, and I still made that decision. But not making an excuse or looking for any empathy in my case, but just, however, being in that position of my life, finding out something like that, something that I would say is probably one of the biggest things that have impacted me positively and negatively in my life when it comes to dealing with the relationship I have with my mother. So that definitely was a very heavy topic on me, and people don't understand what it's like to have to, or people do. We all have our different struggles. We all have our different things we deal with. But to put on a face, to have to go in front of the world and put on a face and hide my pain, who are you, or who am I to tell you how to cope when you're dealing with a pain or you're dealing with a struggle that you've never experienced before or that you've never.
That's Sha'Carri Richardson on the Today Show today. And she goes on at some length. The full interview is available on the Today Show's website. It breaks my heart because she lost her mother a few days before she made the Olympic team. And
she found out from a reporter.
And the scene that will forever resonate with everybody after she wins or after she bests everybody in the track and field trials in Oregon with her 10.86 seconds to qualify for the 100-meter race, is her hugging her grandmother in the wake of losing her mother. Now, what she's saying there is who is she to tell you how to cope with your pain? And her choice in coping with the pain of losing her mother was, unfortunately for her, to smoke pot or to ingest something. I shouldn't say that. That's reckless speculation on my part. I don't know that she smoked pot. All we know is that she tested positive for THC, which is one of the principal chemicals found in marijuana. I just hate that this is, and we have a short time here, Will, so if you can give me 30 seconds or less, I don't understand why this sport and why these governing bodies don't legislate marijuana differently than everything else that causes you much more detriment, even as we're not promoting self-medication.
Yeah, I think the rule is questionable. I agree with you on that. You've got to be smarter, though, about what you're doing leading up to an event that has such a higher standard than the typical athletic standard or the typical human standard. I mean, the standard has to be higher for Olympic athletes, and I get it. I don't think this is the right way for the standard to be higher, but these athletes deal with anti-doping all the time. If you're good enough to be on a podium in Tokyo, you know you're going to get tested more than any other athlete. There are studies on this where certain training groups, certain prestige levels, you're getting tested more than the average level athlete. You can speak to the fairness on that as well, and that's probably a separate discussion. But you have to know that with the great pressure of being a medal favorite, you're going to have the greater responsibility and the scrutiny is going to be higher. You just have to be smarter. I agree with you. It's a bad rule, but if you're Sha'Carri Richardson,
it's the rule.
It's really unfortunate. I don't want to come across unsympathetic to her at all and her pain and her struggle because I can't relate to that and totally empathize with it. But I empathize with the disappointment she's got to feel at this point because it's a completely unfortunate and really disappointing situation.
You guys have called in about this, so we'll take D on the other side and then we'll get to Coach Dave McGinnis for his weekly segment with us. We're going to be talking about the Titans pass rushers, but I do think that this is a topic of consequence that we want to get into at a little more length. So D will lead us off when we come back. I'm Buck Reising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Titans talk and speculation on your smart speaker. Just ask Alexa to play 104.5 The Zone.
But he's driven back inside the 5, and they fling him to the turf.
Your home for Titans football and the flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
More than 80% of hospitals and other healthcare employers are now looking to hire nurses holding a bachelor's degree. If you want to become a nurse and need an affordable nursing program, Aspen University wants to speak with you about our accelerated hybrid BSN. Want to learn more? Just text BOOST to 323232 right now. Most courses are online. You'll attend campus for your labs and complete your clinicals within our network of healthcare partners. Plus, if you need more flexibility, we offer nights and weekend schedules. Text BOOST to 323232 right now. If you want to become a nurse, now is the time. There's no wait list. Applying is free and takes just a few minutes. Don't wait. Spaces are limited. Text BOOST to 323232 to learn more. Text the word BOOST to 323232 right now. Text BOOST to 323232. The total cost of your degree program will vary depending upon the courses taken, transfer credits awarded, and fees incurred.
photo leaked, which caused him to get a 3-month suspension.
Yes.
And he lost endorsements and a renewal with Kellogg. Now, she is right now, it's still early in the stages, but I have to say for her, as another black male, she has to look at it. It's going to be harder for her, and they're going to be people that are going to look for reasons of how she won it and why she won it. So I think that she should look at Michael Phelps and knowing that if he got that, what are they going to do to you to prevent you from being on such a grand stage because you represent the United States?
No, D, I think you're spot on, and I appreciate that that worldview because, race in this, whether it's implicit bias, whether it's unconscious bias, that factors in. There is no disputing that. And Sha'Carri Richardson, as a young African American female, is going to run up against this, especially. People were critical of the fact that her nails were done the way that they were when she was running in the qualifiers in Oregon, or as Dee brought up, the Dorito earrings, like just nitpicking unnecessarily.
Still smoked everybody.
100%. Well, maybe that's not a joke we should make.
It. Yeah. Not intentional.
Oh, phrasing, Lucas. Will Bowling keeps. This is why I can't have him in the studio while there's live sports on. He keeps pointing at me while I'm trying to do a radio show just because there was an equalizing goal. Yes, Will, I see it. It's on the TV in front of me.
Because we're talking about Sha'Carri, and Sha'Carri just scored for Switzerland.
Oh, it's Sha'Carri. Damn it, Lucas.
Carrie.
What are you doing? It's the end of the week.
I was on a plane with Michael Phelps once.
I don't care. Did he pass the bong?
No, he just walked. It was from Brazil. It was Brazil to the U.S., and that's Michael Phelps. We got a free pass to the first one on the plane.
Now I need Coach Mack to pop into the Zoom so I don't have to deal with this any longer. Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will soon join us. And thank God. Oh, thank God Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio has popped into the Zoom. Coach Mack, thank you for bailing us out in the middle of this conversation. We're sorry that we had to keep you waiting. How are you, my friend?
Good afternoon, Buck. Lucas, no problem. No problem at all, brother.
So, Mac, today I wanted to get into with you some of the players who are still out on the available market and free agency, and understanding, not necessarily, I don't want to get into the details of what the Titans can and cannot do from a cap standpoint, but I want to talk about what kind of this looks like from a coach's standpoint and from an organizational worldview, where you're looking at the free agents that might be still out there on the market as you get ready for training camp and kind of evaluating, veterans and how much they're worth versus how much they're asking, and all of the process that goes into this before we talk about the edge rushers specifically. What kind of the conversations are had in this, almost fourth wave of free agents that are available out there for teams to acquire?
Well, first and foremost, Buck, it's about asset allocation now at this point, because you've done some things with your other salaries to clear space, to sign Julio Jones, and you're going to have operating capital during the year. And so now, it comes down to not only identifying players, but it also comes down to asset allocation. And let me tell you something else that goes into the conversation right now, because I've done it for years, is these guys that are still out there, I think by my count, and I've got access to, information, there are 38 guys that have rushed the passer in the National Football League that are still out there. Okay, now, of some form or fashion. And now they're out there still for a reason, Buck. And at this time of the year, some of these guys will still be out there after the first regular season game. And let me tell you why that matters. You know this, and I think our listeners do too, but just to reinforce that, you sign a vested veteran after the first game, well, then his salary is not guaranteed for the whole year.
Yes.
You sign him before, well, then his salary is guaranteed for the year. So asset allocation is a big part of that. And some of these guys, they're all in different categories, Buck, but some of these guys will want to wait and see if someone gets injured and someone after, during the season that the dire need of a team because of injury will up what they are willing to be paid. Okay. So there's a lot of that goes into it rather than just, here's a guy, let's go get him. And especially at this time of year, and especially coming off of a year when everybody's salary cap was truncated, and where some teams, the Titans being one of them, you had to make some decisions salary cap wise to be able to move forward and add to a team and add to spots that you really felt like that you needed help in. So those are some considerations that are being talked about right now, because I just been through it. And so that's what you got to consider now also.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us for his weekly appearance on 104.5 The Zone. Coach Mack, as always, brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Healthcare coverage from Farm Bureau Health Plans is like an extra set of pads when you need them the most. They've been protecting Tennesseans since 1947. So when it comes to asset allocation for the Titans, Mac, understanding the money that they've just had to move around, whether it be restructures or otherwise, to create room to get this latest asset, when we look at the pass rushing group specifically, 38 players you said available that have at some point in their career rushed the passer. I think the names that pop into the fans of most Titans, or pop into the minds of most Titans fans, are guys like Justin Houston and Melvin Ingram, who have had historically successful careers in the NFL. If we're talking about asset allocation, Mac, do you think, and I understand that the train of thought is probably you can never have too many pass rushers, but do you think that that would be the best usage of asset allocation to try and acquire one of these vets, no matter at what point they do think about acquiring a veteran pass rusher?
Well, and the next consideration, Buck, has to be where are they physically? Both of those players that you've talked about have been in the league for a while.
Yes.
And so, I mean, nobody ever comes through, the car wash that is the National Football League without some dings and scratches on them. And so that's just the way it is. And so once if you're going to look at a veteran, you're going to have to decide where he is physically, and then you've got to weigh that against what you think you are going to be able not only to pay them monetarily, but what you're going to get out of them production-wise. And so until I would know and would see the medical reports and would be in on the vetting process of where they are physically, Buck, you can't make a statement definitive on any veteran player until you cover all of those bases.
Well, and that's a very reasoned approach to it. I think people just, we get into this part of the year, Mac, where fan bases are trying to grasp at as many straws as they can about, who might be available out there at tight end, or who can we continue to add with our veteran pass rusher, or with the veteran pass rusher market looking the way that it does. A comment that came up a little while ago, Mac, it's probably been a couple months since Wink Martindale had a media availability, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens, and he was talking about sacks being a bit of a superficial stat for defensive coordinators, how we obsess too much over sacks as a stat because they're easy to find on the box score, they're easy for people to understand. Does that compute with you as a superficial stat? Because I understand what he's saying to a degree, but I also think that it's a superficial stat unless you're not getting the sacks.
Well, I mean, getting the quarterback on the ground is important in this league, just because the impact it has on the game. And it's a throwing league now. Very few teams, you still got teams that are run-based, which is extremely, extremely important to be. And most teams are going to have, depend on the run at certain times. Some teams, as the Titans, and a lot of teams that are using this offensive system, I mean, it's an integral part of it. But we're talking about sacks, and so normally when you talk about sacks, clearly they're in a throwing situation, and most of the time, if they're in a throwing situation, we're talking about about the third down part of it too, because that's a very big part of it. So being able to get teams off the field on third down and being able to put pressure on the quarterback or ultimately get him on the ground, I don't think you could say they're superficial stats. I think they're a stat that equates sometimes to being able to put pressure on the quarterback. But as far as, you've had players before that have had, monster sack years that all of a sudden then disappear the next year.
Vic Beasley.
They may still be getting pressure, and they may still be setting an edge and doing what they're supposed to do. But I don't think you can say it's a superficial stat. And I don't think Wink meant that, because, I mean, Wink's coached on some defenses that have done a tremendous job of getting to the quarterback, as have I. I mean, but at the same time, it's a piece of it, Buck. It's a piece of it. Just like people say, well, this secondary doesn't have a lot of interceptions. Well, if they have a lot of pass breakups and the completion percentage is way down on them, well then, and they're getting people off the field on third down, well then they're doing things they need to do to help you win football games. But I don't think Wink meant it didn't matter. I know Wink very well. He's been on teams before as to where it mattered a lot to him.
Well, you know us media vultures, Mac. We run with something we hear, and then it becomes something that the coach or the player didn't actually say. That's we have a tendency to over exaggerate sometimes.
Buck, I've never called you a media vulture. I would never do that.
That's my words, buddy, not yours.
That's not fair at all, and I've got too much respect for Dara to call you a vulture.
She's actually she's picking up her dad from the airport right now, Mac. And so I told her, you got to throw the radio on while you're in the car because Coach Mac is going to be on with us, and you're of course the only reason that she cares at all about anything that's related to sports.
I hope she is listening. Happy 4th of July. I'm glad your dad's in. Hope you guys have a great weekend.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So Mac, we are privileged to have you as a part of our proceedings with Titans Radio and with The Zone for a great many reasons, but because you are the only former NFL head coach who is a part of a broadcast team in the league. We have not had a lot of time today with everything happening in sports, with name, image, and likeness and the suspensions coming down with the Olympic athletes today to talk about Daniel Snyder and what happened with the Washington football team. I'm not to get into the details of that specifically too much, but I want to look at it from a coach's perspective, what it's like to work with ownership that may be doing things that are detrimental to the football team. How difficult is it of a relationship is it to balance with a head coach and an ownership group, no matter whether they're a good owner or a bad owner? What's that dynamic like for people who don't really understand it?
Well, I mean, ownership is everything in this league. I mean, it really is. And I've been very fortunate, with the places that I've been and the place I still work for now with the Titans is a fantastic ownership. But it's Rod Rivera was brought in there. And when he was brought in there, one of the things that they said was that they wanted him to change the culture, within the building. And that's an all-encompassing term. I haven't followed this very closely. I do know that that the league put down a decision, and to me, there's a great amount of responsibility, and this was imparted to me very early in my career in the National Football League. By Mike Ditka, by the Bears organization, that's one of the foundational organizations in this league. Once you become part of this league, you're responsible for a lot of things. But your responsibility to the way that you are perceived is also very big as an employee, as a player, as a coach, and it extends to ownership also. So, as I say, to me, it all gets down to this. It's not. My grandmother told me this growing up. She was a very wise woman, and never got past elementary school. There's no right way to do the wrong thing. It's pretty easy to figure that out.
Yeah. No question about it. Coach Dave McGinnis here with us on 104.5 The Zone. All right, Mac, I'm taking vacation, so I'm not going to be with you next week, but I'm taking Dara to Chicago. I know that's like you've got many homes across this country, or many places that you consider home is probably the way that I should put it. Where do I need to go in Chicago since you ran the town with Ditka for quite some time?
I will send you a list.
That's how you know it's going to be good. If it
I will absolutely send you a list, and I would only send Dara to the best places.
Well,
I could care less how much it's going to cost you. I just want the best for Dara. It's a great city. It's an outstanding city. The 10 years I was there, I absolutely loved it. Still have a lot of great friends there. Just like, look, Nashville, of all the places I've coached and lived, this is my favorite place. That's why I chose to come back here and make this my permanent home now. And I mean, I'm starting my 4th of July weekend, going with Randy Wilmore and Farm Bureau Health Plans to the Sounds game. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then I've been invited to several rooftop events on 4th of July. And so I'm going to be out amongst the 400,000 because what Coach Mack loves to do is be out amongst the people.
That's why we love him. He's a man of the people. He is Coach Dave McGinnis, and he is presented, as always, by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Turn to the folks who have been in the game since 1947, Farm Bureau Health Plans. offers the great health care coverage you need with a price tag you can afford. Mac, enjoy your 4th of July, brother. I look forward to those recommendations.
Buck, I'm going to send them to you. Lucas, see you. Have a great 4th. See you.
We will come back and wrap up the show with poll questions. And also, Lucas is receiving questions in the chat, of which I also have questions about where his attentions are currently divided. We'll find out what that is coming up next. I'm Buck Reising, and this is 104.5 The Zone.
We're on all your devices. 104.5 The Zone TV. Live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Periscope.
Hi, this is Dr. Lewis. Are you struggling?
Great way to do live radio. By the way, this is not Father Stretch. That much I can hear. That much I know is going on. What the hell is this that I'm listening? What have you done?
The theme of my people.
Theme of my people. They're not even playing yet.
2 o'clock.
It's Spain and the Swiss. Tied 1 apiece so far. The 88th minute as we get ready to wrap up this week of shows. Been a fun week. Under normal circumstances, I would go into how much I appreciate everybody who makes this show possible, which is each and every one of you who listen, no matter how it is that you listen, because Father Stretch puts me in a good mood where I want to celebrate everybody. But Lucas hasn't done that. Instead, he's chosen to be selfish again today as I swap out my headphones in real time. It's a great finish to the show.
This is my day.
It's my day. Okay, bud. As we get ready to wrap things up here. But no, in all seriousness.
Sound very childish.
Have you listened to the 3 hours of radio I do a day? You're going to be okay. Don't worry about being childish. That's basically why I have a career.
My day.
My day. But yes, so much thanks to all of you who make the show possible for interacting and hanging out with us between 10 and 1. We will be off. Well, I will be off Monday. It will be the Lucas Panzica and Will Bowling show, or in some form of fashion of that. I don't know who receives top billing in that situation, but we'll let them fight amongst themselves to figure that out.
Let's just go alphabetical.
So that would be you.
Oh, it would.
It is Lucas. But not if we go by last name.
Damn it.
Anyway, let's do some polls.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Because the polls have closed and the votes have been tallied, it's time for a poll update. And he's a good boy. Buck Reising show producer and correspondent, Lucas Panzica.
All right, good boy. How do we think Rhett does these voices? Do you think he rasps himself? Like, I think you got to go down in your gut to be able to get that tone.
He's very talented.
Cotton balls in his mouth or something like that.
Very talented.
He's a gem.
Are fireworks overrated? Yes or no? 56% say yes.
56% of you are right.
I would agree.
Fireworks largely stink. And that's because I live close enough to the Sounds ballpark where they annoy me at this time of year.
Yeah, they're fun, but like the way people just go nuts over them, specifically the people that want to shoot them off and see things explode, I've never been able to relate to that too much.
And, maybe not so fun. Ask JPP. Not all fun and games, boys and girls.
Are you required to eat a hot dog on July 4th? Very split here. 51% are saying no.
Good. The majority is aligned with me. Hot dogs also overrated. Hot dogs largely stink. Bratwurst is the way to go. If you are going to consume meat in a bun, bratwurst is the king of the sausage confections. Not hot dogs.
Will Bowling looks disgusted. I will say I appreciate a good hot dog. It depends what context you're looking at it at. Like, it's just a hot dog is like a ball game thing or like a 4th of July thing. It's not like a delicacy. It doesn't taste that great.
What do you mean? Ask the people on Division Street just down the road from us at
That's
about
true.
1 a.m.
Yeah, no,
They
that's
are-
a whole
they
other
are
thing.
quite the delicacy at that time of the day.
What is your interest level in the Olympics this summer? A lot, a little, meh. 39% say a little, 37% are meh, and 24% say a lot.
No, Will Bowling again looking disgusted and fortunate that he does not have a microphone in front of his face because we need to wrap things up here. But yeah, I saw you reaching for the mic. I think that's pretty typical. Like people, I feel like don't really get invested in the Olympics until the Olympics are upon us, which will not happen for 2 more weeks. I think the July 14th is the opening ceremonies.
What's your favorite event? Like, what gets you the most hype?
Oh, basketball. But that's because,
but that's not even fun. I mean, it's fun to watch, but they just cruise.
It's just my favorite sport. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. Was that not satisfactory? You asked me a question. I gave you an answer.
All right. Fair.
Keep it moving.
How will you spend July 4th weekend? James Brown says our youngest will be turning 4 on the 4th with, suitably, a Captain America birthday party.
Lovely.
Happy birthday to your son, James.
Mm-hmm.
Roy says, I'm shooting bottle rockets in Brentwood.
Okay, my least favorite kind of person.
M. Woods says eating.
Okay.
Jay Fraley says, hopefully with no rain and good friends and family. Hope you and yours have a great weekend as well.
Oh, lovely. So what are you doing for 4th of July, by the way?
I'm going to Chattanooga. Our friends have a lake house. A bunch of us are heading over there. Same thing we did last year.
Spend a lot of time in Chattanooga, I feel like.
Yeah, I do a bunch of soccer over there, and I have some friends that live over there. It's a great town.
Well, I am going to be hosting the blood drive at the Nashville Sound Stadium for Blood Assurance. So if you want to come hang out from 10 to noon, Coach Mack is going to be at the Sounds game. I will be at the Sounds game. So if you want to contribute to a good cause in the morning and then come back and hang out, maybe drink some beverages in the bandbox and watch some baseball, you can do that as well. I'm very appreciative of the people at Blood Assurance for having me out and hosting the blood drive. So we would love to see you out there starting at 10 a.m. on Sunday.
Is Madden 22 doing too much? 70% say yes.
We didn't even get into this.
No, we didn't.
These like various traits that they have for each team.
Like home field advantage.
Home field advantage. The one for the Titans is just tighten up, and it means there's less holding penalties. What the hell is that? What are we doing? Just make the damn video game so I can play the damn video game.
Right.
I don't care about all this. I'm sorry, Lucas. I don't care about all this other stuff.
Eldon English said it's doing too much and not enough at the same time.
True. They have no
to
competition in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Zero competition in the marketplace. And so they're just allowed to do whatever the hell they want with the video game. And I mean, I complain about this like I'm actually going to buy Madden. I don't need to buy Madden. I have zero time to play video games anymore, as much as I might like to on any given moment. But not even that anymore. Like I'll play Warzone and school our buddy Michael Kist.
Do you care that there's almost zero accountability for NFL owners by the league? 64% say yes.
Dan Snyder. So if you have not been paying attention to what's happening with the Washington football team, I don't know how you couldn't because it was the biggest story in football yesterday. Dan Snyder and the Washington football team got a $10 million fine, and Dan Snyder has been largely removed from what they are calling day-to-day operations of the football team, and instead they're just passing it over to his wife. And the way that Sally Jenkins wrote about it today in the Washington Post was unbelievably pointed and cutting as to how stupid this is, where they spent a year investigating sexual impropriety and sexual assault in some cases among females both on the cheerleading team, the dance team, and in the Washington football team organization. They spent a year investigating it. The investigation comes up with nothing. The independent investigator is not tasked with assigning any blame or flushing out any real facts. If you read the 29-paragraph report that the NFL put out yesterday, there is zero accountability for these billionaires running the sport, and I don't know if anybody cares. I think people just want their football. Like, they don't care that the sports are being run by morally bankrupt people. It's like FIFA. Nobody cared about what's my guy's name that said I am the king of everything.
Zlatan.
No, not Zlatan. The guy that ran FIFA for forever. Looked like the Penguin. Sepp Blatter.
Oh, right. Yeah,
he got voted president of FIFA again.
Yes,
and he said,
he ran FIFA.
He basically said, I'm the king of everything again.
Probably the most corrupt person in world sports in the last few decades, which is like an insane thing to say.
It's the only good redeeming part of a press conference is that press conference where somebody just threw a stack of money at him.
A British comedian crashed the presser, threw a bunch of fake money on him.
That was art.
Should marijuana use be qualified as an anti-doping violation? 89% say no.
89% of you spot on. I only wish that it was 42% of you, but that would not be the majority, and I can't do a 420%.
Roy says, don't they call it smoking dope? Anti-doping would not include smoking dope, I'm pretty sure.
Well, when's the last time anybody called it dope? I mean, honestly. Like,
don't age yourself
the early 90s?
I will point out, he wrote, would not include smoking door, I'm pretty sure, but I think he meant to type dope.
Okay. We'll forgive people for grammatical errors on a Friday. It's fine. I will not forgive the USDA or USADA and WADA for suspending Sha'Carri Richardson for a month. It's illegal in Tennessee, I understand. But so stupid. Such a waste of time. What is not a waste of time will be Blaine and Mickey. And I don't just say that because I'm going to be on Blaine and Mickey today. But they're going to put on an entertaining product. They're going to get you just a little bit closer to your 4th of July weekend. I will talk to you on Tuesday because Will Bowling and Lucas Panzica, or something like that, have you covered on Monday. See y'all.
J. Martin Ramon. You don't wake up early? Here's what you missed.
What do you expect? Because if it's not what you expect, with the amount of money that's paid out, it's an ever-changing league. The NFL means not for long, not just for the players, or for coaches too.
Jason Martin and Ramon Foster, Monday mornings starting at 6.